What's up, guys? We are back for another McFarlane review, taking a look at another Fortnite figure, and this is another one in this line that honestly I wasn't really sure I was going to be getting a hold of, mostly because I had no intention of just buying it outright, and then I came across it randomly at a Target, and my Target normally never has Fortnite figures these days, but they had this guy on the shelf, the Rex figure, and he's got a cool design, and doing what I do, I ended up leaving the store with him. So we've got him here today, and we're going to take a look at him. So we've got him here in the standard style packaging for this line, which is different from the previous exclusive figure that I looked at. So this is a bit of a larger format box, but he's there in the window, and then you've got a render of him down there on the side. You got some other artwork and renders of him on the other side, and then the back of the package has some weaponry, and then it also has cross-sell as well as a shot of this particular figure. So let's do it. Let's pull this guy out and take a look. So here he is out of the package, our Fortnite Rex figure, and as with the Skull Trooper, I'm going into this pretty blind, and I was surprised to find that this guy shares almost every part with the Skull Trooper. They're very, very close, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if it should or shouldn't, but it does. It doesn't bother me personally, but again, I have no frame of reference here, so we're going to jump right in, take a look, and see how this guy moves around as usual to start with. So we've got a head that can go down a little bit. His big T-Rex mask hits his kerchief pretty quickly, and then he's got this backpack as well, which I suppose is an accessory, but it's supposed to be on him, so I'm just going to include it as part of the body, basically, and it hits the tail pretty quickly, so he is a little impeded. He can bobble side to side. You got rotation. Arms go out, they rotate. You've got a bit of a butterfly joint there. It's not too mobile, but it does move some, and then you've got your bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, get pretty good range of motion there. You got ball hinges at the wrist, so you've also got rotation, and then we've got a diaphragm swivel, so you can swivel side to side, you can go bobble side to side, backwards and forwards, and then you can go down about that far. He goes back really far, and then, as far as side-to-side movement, it's pretty good. The legs are the one area where I still don't really care for the articulation. I don't like the crotch area on these figures. So the legs can go out, and I have a problem with this figure because he keeps popping apart. He goes back together just fine, but I keep popping those legs out, as you just saw. So the legs can go out. They really only go out about that far before I really start to have issues, and you got to kind of baby them to get them to go all the way out. He goes pretty far once you do that. You can kick forward, you can go backwards a little bit, and then there is rotation in there as well. It's just kind of finicky because you have to kind of move the leg first and then rotate it. He also can't rotate inwards to the crotch. It's only in an outwards and kind of upwards motion. There are double jointed knees, and then you've got ball hinges at the ankles for pretty good range of motion. You've got rotation, and then you've got rocker action, and we've got toe articulation as well. So he moves basically the same as the Skull Trooper. The only real hindrance is the head area. He's not as mobile there because of the big mask on his head and then that backpack, which the Walgreens version that I reviewed previously did not come with. Now, as far as the overall look and feel, that's ultimately where my interests lie with this figure, because he's wearing a dinosaur suit, sort of, a tactical dinosaur suit, which I think is kind of goofy and funny. And I mean, if you've listened to me prattle on about toys in the past, you know that goofy figures generally do it for me because they look different. And this guy very much looks different while simultaneously being very similar to that Skull Trooper figure. But until you're really paying attention to it, you might not even notice it because the design and look is so entirely different. They just happen to use the same parts. The real differences are like the head, and then the Skull Trooper that I have has dog tags around this kerchief, and it seems to be a different piece altogether. But for the most part, they very well seem to be the same figure, which for me personally doesn't really make any difference. It's just an oddity that I noticed, and I was surprised to see so much parts reuse between those two figures. Otherwise, though, I think he looks pretty good. Of course, being a McFarlane figure, this guy is in the 7-inch scale. We've got those Jazzwares figures that are coming out now, which I'm still curious why we have two almost the same scales almost running simultaneously, so I need to get some of those to compare against, I suppose. But I think these guys look pretty good in this bigger scale. It doesn't really bother me, and I'm not really one for mixing too many lines on my displays anyway, so it doesn't really bother me too much. The look, though, is pretty solid. Paint applications are pretty nicely done. I don't really have any problems here. A lot of orange accents, which obviously works for me. I'm sure you can understand why. We've got all the kind of tactical gear on him, the pouches, the belts, the straps. You've got the straps that run down on these shin pads, which are nicely done. A little bit of a metallic paint. You've got a patch, or it looks like some sort of goop to me because of the green color, but it's supposed to be a patch, I believe. And then you've got a little communicator guy here on his wrist, which is done up with some blue paint for the screen there. And then we've got the backpack, which is a removable piece. It comes in the package as like an accessory, but I'm not really sure if it's supposed to be an actual accessory or just something that he keeps on him at all times. And it's done up like a little dinosaur backpack, so it's got legs and arms, and it's got the spikes that run down the back. So I think this is a really cool thing. Obviously, it's not a unique design to the toy, I'm sure, but it's a cool design, and it translates really well into figure form. So just the colors on this guy and the overall design lends itself really well to just being a fun, weird toy. And then, of course, you've got this head sculpt up here, which has a human head which is seated inside of this dinosaur mask, and the human head is honestly kind of take it or leave it for me. It's mostly just a head sculpt in there. You really can't even see it too well in many respects, and he's just kind of got a little smirk on him, some pretty plainly painted eyes, but then you've got this green dinosaur mask, and you've got the teeth all around his face, and you've got the spikes that run down. It gives me a very Reptar vibe from Rugrats. That's really what I keep thinking of when I see this guy. But it just looks good, and it's a weird, funny thing, and it translates into something really goofy and very much a contrasting look to the Skull Trooper, which again is the only one I have so far. But it's a cool little thing to have something that's very much belonging together, those two different figures, while looking very, very different. And this head sculpt is definitely the key thing when it comes to pulling this guy apart from a lot of the other figures for me. Now, as far as accessories goes, this guy has a small handful, and frankly, I'm not even close to sure what he should have or what's supposed to come with this kind of character. So we've got the things that are in the box, and they're pretty cool. A couple of weird accessories, and that's some of the stuff that draws me in with these figures, is because they have weird stuff. Not to mention the fact that, again, the figures kind of look goofy, which usually does it for me, but these accessories are pretty cool. So he's got this big missile launcher with a decent amount of paint on it. We've obviously got, the kind of face that's painted on at the end of the missile here, and then you've got some browns and some grays. So it's a pretty good missile launcher. He holds it well enough. He doesn't actually have any trigger fingers though, so it just sort of sits in his hand, but he does hold it just fine. And I like the idea behind it. I like the green missile, and I like the face on the end of it as well. Of course, the cool accessory, the coolest accessory anyway, is his big, I guess these are like digging tools or building tools or whatever they are. So the little claw grabber guy here, dinosaur head with a great sculpt. I thought it was going to move, and it doesn't. It's not articulated, but it looks pretty convincing, and I'm really happy with the way this turned out. And then you've got a pretty decent paint job on it. It's yellow with some red dry brushing that leads to a red top. And just the sculpt and the design on it is just cool. It looks very much like an old toy, that you or I might have had as a kid. So I like the idea behind it, and I like the design, despite the fact that, again, I have no clue what it's supposed to do or what it means. And then, a staple of this line, I believe, is the bases. So you've got the black circular base that says Fortnite on it, 2 pegs, so you can stand him up, and it works well enough. I don't know that you really need these because I have no balance issues with these figures, but it's nice to get them, and it's a consistent thing across the line. So overall, this is a pretty fun figure. I really don't have any true gripes outside of the nitpicky stuff when it comes to the articulation around the crotch. It's just not my cup of tea. But otherwise, this figure is really weird. It's quirky. It's got an odd design. It's got an odd look. It's got a weird color scheme. The guy's wearing a T-Rex mask on his head, and he's got a goofy little dinosaur backpack that's accompanied by a massive missile launcher and a really weird grabby tool with a dinosaur head on the end of it. There's just a lot of weird stuff that accompanies a pretty solid action figure, so it's kind of a win-win. Even if you don't care about Fortnite like me personally, it's still a fun toy, and that's ultimately why I'm here, and I think McFarlane's doing a pretty good job with these figures. I still don't think I need them all, but as you can see, I've already gotten another one, so who knows where that's going to lead. So that's going to do it for this look at the McFarlane Toys Fortnite Rex figure. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.